Hey everyone, this is Andrew from the Private Investigator Advice Podcast, and this is going to be episode number 75. And the topic of this podcast is going to be what is the definition of a private investigator and what does a private investigator do? This might overlap some stuff earlier in the podcast series. It's just been so long. I just wanted to revisit this a little bit. I actually wrote about this in an article. That's typically how these podcasts start. I tell you how I've written something, and then I'm turning it into a podcast. So in case you didn't read it, you can listen to it. So I'm just going to go ahead and jump right into it. So the formal definition that I found at the Merriam-Webster Dictionary defines a private investigator as a person, not a member of a police force who is licensed to do detective work. And it was in parentheses, as investigation of suspected wrongdoing or searching for a missing person. They gave that as an example. And the dictionary isn't wrong. That's very much what private investigators do. But there's a lot more that private investigators do in their role. And and we go by different names, right? Depending on who you talk to, some people, hey, I'm a private investigator, I'm a private detective, or this is what we're being called a private eye, a sleuth, a spy, an investigator. We've been called stalkers. Some of the names aren't so good, but we go by, we're identified by a lot of different names depending on who you talk to. But regardless of what we're described as, at the very core of what we do is we collect information, we document things, right, and then we provide what we collect and document. We've documented, and we provide that to the client so they can make this educated decision on whatever it is, right? Whatever they hired you to find out. That's it. We want to get them the most that we can, so they can make a decision. So. Private investigators are they're independently hired to gather information for attorneys, companies, individuals, and insurance companies. So before we go any further, I'm going to go ahead and pause right there and just let you know that this podcast is brought to you by Audible. Audible is it's probably one of the best things. And again, I always talk about it. I like to read things through my Kindle or my Amazon Fire. And I also drive a lot. And when I'm on the road and I'm run out of podcast, I'll turn on one of my books that I have. And basically it's somebody reading to you. It's books on tape, but it's not on tape. It's on your phone. It's on your tablet. And Audible is offering a free 30-day trial. And in that trial, you get a free book. You sign up, you get the free book. And if you don't want to, do it, you don't like it, whatever the case may be, you go ahead and cancel before the 30 days is up. You get to keep the book. You don't get charged anything, and you're good to go. It's really a great way to try something. And it for free. It's for free. You get to try it for free, and if you don't like it, you get out of it. And anyways, I would definitely recommend taking a look at it. So to get this free trial, I'm an affiliate for Audible, and what you want to do is go to www.audibletrial.com/PIA. And what that lets them know is that that you came from this podcast, and if you decide to sign up, I'll get a small commission, and I appreciate it if you do. I appreciate anybody who goes and tries it. At least give it a go. Anyways, that's Audible. Audible www.audibletrial.com/PIA. Andrew, myself, we thank Audible for sponsoring this podcast. Anyways, so what do private investigators do for attorneys? An attorney, a private investigator working for an attorney will serve papers, locate documents, interview potential witnesses, locate witnesses, locate people, conduct surveillance. I had an attorney call me the other day. They wanted me to be able to locate banks for them. because their other private investigator I did that, and they wanted to make sure that I could do that. So that's just some of the stuff they can do. What can private investigators do for companies? Oh, they can investigate employees. They can set up covert cameras within businesses to see what's going on. They can follow employees involved in time theft. I remember, it must have been at least a decade ago, I was just hired to follow a guy during work hours and just to see where he went, because they didn't know what the heck he did all day. And so I just drove around. I followed him. I really didn't even know what he was doing all day. But they'll do that. They want to know what they're doing. They'll ask you to do background checks for future employees. Some restaurants and businesses will ask you to be a secret shopper. Some will, I know that some specialize in being loss prevention for short periods of time for companies. And some will even work as security for companies. And of course, they do much more. This is just kind of like scratching the surface on the big things that you will find that they do. That will find that maybe you'll do for them in the future. What can a private investigator do for just regular individuals? Sometimes, when people just basically have nowhere else to turn to, they reach out to a private investigator as like their last resort. Because some people are just desperate to find out something specific, right? So, if someone died from unnatural causes, they might hire a private investigator to seek out how they died, maybe to see if for some reason that maybe wasn't determined. I remember I had a friend. He was prior law enforcement. This is going way back now. I actually interviewed him to come on with a company that I was working for, and I trained him. And then, time passed, and he ended up leaving the company and going to another company. And he told me, I caught up with him one time, and he was telling me how the company he was working for was hired, which sent him to go do this, to investigate their son's death. And I guess the law enforcement or whoever investigated the death of this individual had said it was a suicide. And when he went back there and he, interviewed different people, and he, reviewed some of the evidence that was there that he saw, he was able to determine that it was impossible for it to be a suicide, and other people had to be involved. So it might not have been one. It just couldn't be that. So what happened was they turned up all his information over to the people, his clients. His clients turned it over to the police department, and they actually reopened the case to investigate it further, because there was more to that story based on his findings. So I thought that was interesting. That's not something I've ever done, but I just think that just kind of goes to show you, something like that is, you can be capable of doing for somebody. Private investigators for the general public will, they'll do a kind of a background check on somebody to see maybe it's someone they're dating. Of course, not all information is going to be given to them, but maybe just specific information that they're concerned about regarding that individual. Private investigators can conduct surveillance in relation to custody cases. I think that's a really common thing where you get a call from the husband or the wife or whatever, and they'll be like, "We want you to conduct surveillance on so and so." He says that he's he's with my kids when he's with it, when he's got time with them, but I know for a fact that he's not. We need to document this. I haven't worked those kind of cases. I get a lot of calls for those. A lot of friends do those kind of things. It's just not something I've spent a great deal of time with, but it's out there. It's the kind of work that's out there. You can search for possible assets owned by somebody. I know that's happened with some of my friends in the industry. They're trying to find different stuff that for whatever reason they want to know what so and so owns. Does he own a house? Does he own vehicles? What are his assets? Let's see, I already talked about the cause of death. They can find missing people. It's very common, to find missing people. And then obviously conduct surveillance in regards to infidelity. It's a big industry. I don't think that's going away anytime soon. And of course, they can do much more for, individuals. The other one is for insurance companies. What do private investigators do for insurance companies? Private investigators kind of act as an extension for insurance companies, and working on their behalf, right? To collect information, investigate, whatnot. Some of the stuff that they do, well, they're gonna conduct interviews with claimants and the insureds, and this is going to be like in regards to slip and fall accidents, vehicle accidents, house fires, car accidents, any kind of insurance claim you think of. Private investigators can be used on their behalf. Private investigators can go out and take measurements and document things in regards to insurance claims. Just kind of some things that I've done in the past. A tree's fallen, damaged, such and such. Go out there. How big was this tree? What kind of damage is it? Go take photos. That's just kind of small things. Someone got hurt at a hotel or whatever. You have to go in there and measure and document, and you're this extension of the insurance company. You're collecting all this information so they can make a informed decision about this claim. They're not there. You're there. You're doing the work for them. You can interview claimants applying for disability insurance payments. Sometimes people apply for disability. You go out and find out what's their disability, like what's happening, and then I don't know what happens after that, because after I give them all my stuff, I don't see it again. But that's one of the things you do. You can conduct live and well checks. Basically, that's going to check on the welfare of people who are receiving benefits. And this usually applies to the older people, someone who's been collecting benefits for a very long time, and they're 70s, 80s years old. They still want to make sure that the person is alive and well, and the benefits are still going to them and not going to like somebody else, and the person's passed away. So that's what we go out there and check. You can conduct surveillance on worker compensation disability claims. Basically, you go out there and, I have a philosophy about it, but basically you go out there and find out what they're doing. And with that video, the insurance company can decide whether, they're paying out a good claim or they're not. I guess that's kind of how it's simply put. I really don't care. I just try to get as much stuff as I can and then give them what I got, There's some private investigators or companies that do accident reconstruction. I don't know much about this. Usually when I would get hired, I'm working for a company and I get hired to do the interviews and things like that for them. They'll hire another company to do the accident reconstruction. And I'm kind of fascinated by it because I know it's quite a science. It's interesting. I maybe someday I'll dig deeper into it and try to learn about it. But I think it's fascinating. That's one of the things that I definitely think that you guys should check out as well. And there's some investigators that can determine the origin and cause of fires. I think it's fascinating as well. And there's other insurance related things that private investigators do. This is just kind of this is the main bulk of things that they do. There's also a big market for computer and cell phone forensics. To be honest with you, I've never messed with that. I have taken, I don't know if it was a class. I went to it was a seminar, whatever. It was with my association that I was with. Anyways, you take this class. I don't know if it's a class. The guy told a story. He talks about kind of computer forensics. And at that time, it was still relatively new, but it's very much relevant in court. These things. Gosh, I can't even speak right today. Basically, evidence can be used in court in regards to forensics. So. I thought that was fascinating. Again, that's something I don't know much about, truthfully, but you can definitely take a look at that and see if that's something you're interested in. The guy that was talking about it happened to teach a class about it at a local college in the area in Seattle, which I thought was cool that people can go and take that. So that's just kind of some of the things that private investigators can do. Of course, there's so much more things out there, like. I mean, there's always going to be some other investigator going, no, I do this and I do that and I do that. And I think that's great. And the more things that I learn about from other private investigators, 'cause I don't do everything. I kind of have a specialization of the things that I do. But the more I learn, more I find out, the more I'm going to share with you guys and you guys will have that knowledge as well. So, while we're talking about this, what's the general basic requirement to become a private investigator? Every state in the United States is a little bit different. And I'm sure in if you're listening from a different country, it might be different for you over there. But over here in the United States, usually there's a certain amount of education or experience required to become a private investigator. Sometimes you can pass that up by just going, and I think I've talked about this before, you can just go and take a test, pay some money. And if you take this test and you pass it, having a specific amount of knowledge about some stuff, you can get your agency license and have your own business. But generally speaking, here are some of them. Basically, some require you have to have a high school diploma or a GED. Many states want you to be 18 to 21 years old. Again, this varies state to state. United States, as I said before, experience or college education can help you to getting your license. For me in Washington, I had enough experience. But sometimes education can make up for some of that experience. And so keep that in mind. You got to have a clean criminal record. And you have to, some of them say you have to be a United States citizen to become a private investigator. Every state's a little bit different. Definitely you need to go in there and check out your state's requirements and see what they're looking for when you're going to be a private investigator. To talk about some of the good qualities of being a good private investigator, this is some of the things that I've seen over the years. Some of the good, really good private investigators that I've been able to associate with, and some of that stuff is integrity. Doing the right thing when no one's looking. I think in this industry, you're always working alone, or most of the time you're working alone, and it can be tempting to not do the right thing sometimes. And I'm not saying criminally or anything like that, but, I did this whole thing about ghosting. Basically, private investigators not really doing the surveillance and then fabricating stuff to make it look like they did the surveillance. That would be an integrity thing. It'd also be a fraudulent thing, but, basically that's what I'm kind of shooting for there to explain to you. Another one is thoughtfulness, not only with your clients, but the people you interact with. Be thoughtful, be pleasant. Don't be a jerk face. Be nice to even if the people you think are being fraudulent, you still be very respectful. Basically, be inquisitive. You want to keep asking questions. You want to kind of you want to have that mindset of always kind of digging a little bit deeper on different things. And when I'm telling you this, I'm thinking from a perspective of when I'm doing interviews and things like that, regarding accidents or claims or whatever. Dig a little bit deeper, scratch a little bit deeper during the interviews. It's an important attribute, and it didn't come naturally to me when I first started doing this. But it's something you can kind of learn and you pick up as you go along. You want to be the kind of person who keeps seeking information. A good private investigator will keep digging, and getting, doing their due diligence and making sure they have all their bases covered. Because even when you think that you might have it all covered and there's something else you could do, and then you end up doing that thing, you're like, oh my gosh, there's so much more information I found out because of this. So, you want to keep digging as needed, You want to be street smart. You want to be safe out there. And you want to be book smart. You want to be someone who's self-aware. You want to know your strength and weaknesses. I think that's important because if you know those things, you know what you need to still work on. You need to, have some humility with that. There's still things you need to work on. You need to be aware of it. I think, I don't know. I probably told you guys a lot about my weaknesses. If not, maybe I'll tell you someday. But for me, I still know I could be better at this still, or there's still stuff I need to work on this, or I really don't like doing this, even though I need to do this. I'm aware of these things, and it helps me, I think, be a better investigator. You want to be someone who always keeps learning. Don't be comfortable. Be willing to learn different things about different markets. And it doesn't always have to be a PI thing. like, oh, I need to learn this about PI or this about PI. Like, definitely have a broader range. There's different things out there to learn that you can incorporate in life to private investigations. Um, like, when I was learning about some marketing just for doing this podcast or the website, like that stuff transfers over to PI stuff. And I think in many ways it's given me the advantage over some people on some things that I'm able to do that some people might not be able to do. They have to maybe pay other people to do. So anyways, keep learning about different things, and it doesn't have to just be about PI things. This kind of goes back to being self-aware, but I'll be someone who tries to always improve their skills. That's always important. And be hardworking. Be a hard worker. Nobody wants to hire someone who isn't a hard worker. Anyways, those attributes, and I've been able to work with some really great people, and I've been able to work with a lot of crappy people. And so the crappy people weren't thoughtful. They didn't have integrity. They didn't try to improve themselves. Anyways, and the people that were, they're still, if they still wanted to be in this industry, they're still in this industry. And those are the people that I can still trust to this day in regards to different things, working with them, asking them questions. I still trust them. And that's huge for me. That's, for me, who I am as a person, and even in this line of work, that's huge for me. So anyways, so how are private investigators viewed? One of the things I get tired of reading is every time I read an article about private investigations, it always starts off with, Bobby Sue is a private investigator, and don't worry, they don't wear trench coats and, whatever. Like, we don't need to talk about it anymore. Everybody knows that. Like, when's the last time when have you ever seen a private investigator walking around with a trench coat and a magnifying glass? Ever? Like Sherlock Holmes? I don't see it. Like, so it kills me when they write that kind of stuff. But anyways, it's like they always have to say that in an article prior to talking about a private investigator or something about a private investigator. Anyways, everybody has a different impression of a private investigator, or has some kind of different feelings about them when they hear that word. I think some people are scared of private investigators because they think that we're doing things illegal to get information, and that's just because the people who feel this way are uninformed, and they don't really understand how we get certain information, and that we don't think that we're above the law, but they're scared because they think we are. Anyways, long story short on that. And there's some people that think we're heroes, right? Because for an insurance company, maybe you get some great video that shows total fraud, and maybe you saved a company $1 million because of, you were able to capture that moment, right? And so maybe you're a hero to them, or maybe to the cheating spouse. You caught someone cheating on their spouse, and you give this other person peace of mind. You've done something for them. They may not be happy about the cheating, but at least they have closure on it, right? So some people look at us that way. And there's some people that are scared of us because they just don't know what we're really about. I mean, I can't tell you how many times that somebody's written on one of my videos in the comment section, and just been really kind of ruthless. And I have ended up having to delete a lot of the comments, but they're so mad about something. Maybe they were, investigated, or maybe they had an insurance claim, and they're just mad, right? And so, they're just going to take it out on us, and if they're scared of us, or they think we're going to spy in their homes and bug their homes. I try to educate them as much as possible, but I just think it's just one of those things that it's going to be a very long time before anybody is going to be able to shake that stigma. Even though I do my best, right? I do my best on here to kind of educate not only the future private investigators, but anybody that wants to listen to this and learn from it. because I would never teach anything like that. And I would probably say something if I did see somebody teaching something illegal. I think the whole investigative community would jump in, and I've seen that before. Jump in if something wasn't right about whatever someone was talking about or doing. So, anyways, guys, I kind of rambled on there, but here's my final thoughts on private investigators and what we do and who we are. At the very core, we're normal people. We're moms and dads. Husband, wives, we're somebody's daughter, we're somebody's son. We're just normal people. We're just trying to do a job. And our job happens to be, in some cases, sneaking around, doing surveillance. But we don't think we're above the law. The majority, the 99% of private investigators don't think that. And I think most, these private investigators that I am, at least who I'm in contact with, they have integrity. They're trying to do the right thing, and and we're just trying to do a job. We're not trying to hurt anybody. We're just trying to just do our jobs. So, anyways, if you want to find more resources on being a private investigator or some of the equipment that I use. Or anything like that, I've kind of built out this resource page on the Private Investigator Advice website. You'll see it on the top bar. Just click on resources. Now, some of the products I am affiliates for, so I'm recommending them, but it's because I use them, and I'll get a small commission for them. Some of them send you to Amazon, things like that. Some of them don't send you anywhere. So, but I still use them, and I'm not going to not just tell you about it because I don't make any money off it. I mean, it's the stuff I use. So. Anyways, I'm recommending these things to you to help you with your career, whether you want to be a private investigator or you're already a private investigator. Whatever I can do to help you, that's my goal. So definitely check that out. Go to the resources page, and if you have a question about something that maybe I don't have listed on the resource page, let me know. And if I know of a product or a service or something like that, I'll definitely put it on there. So it'll help somebody else, and it'll help you and somebody else. So I think that's it, guys. I want to thank you for taking the time to listen to this podcast. I've been writing a lot of articles. I'm going to have a lot more coming up, and I've got some reviews coming up, some more audio recorders. It just seems like I got a lot of them being requested right now. So I'm trying to get to them as fast as possible. I try to mix in the kind of like I don't know what the words, educational articles, and then mix them in with the reviews, so you're not just getting review. So anyways, I thank you for that. And yeah, that's it. And also, I don't know if I got a chance to thank the people who participated in the survey. I can't remember if I did it on the last podcast or not, but I just want to do it again. Thank you again for participating in that. The survey's still there. If I sent everybody who subscribes to the email list, which you can, if you want to do that, you can go to the website and it's on the sidebar to sign up for that. But there's still time. I'm still looking for anybody's information on that. If you want to participate in that, it's still in there. And that's it, guys. So until next week, I'll have another podcast for you. Thank you again for listening. And if you guys have an idea for a podcast, go ahead and message me, and I'll consider it, or at least an article about it. All right. Bye-bye.